Hi everyone and welcome. This is a little bit of a fly on the wall kind of video. One of the things that I look for when I'm learning something new is beyond the obvious tutorials explaining technically how something works. One of the things I want the most is to just watch somebody work. So that's this video here. It's nothing particularly complex, just making a sounding massive. I was exploring the square wave and the noise modulation in the jitter effect, and decided to make a trance melody and just have a little bit of fun with it. So I'm going to play through what I created, then we're going to go to an init patch, recreate it. And one little insight that might be useful to some others out there is when I create something, sometimes I'll save it and then I'll try to recreate it again. Because the second time, knowing that I've already achieved basically what I wanted the first time, I feel more at ease to start exploring and going in new directions. So I do a lot of that. I'll copy something and then I'll sort of deactivate the old version and just start working on something new. And I'll create these iterations and continuously refine them. And over time, you'll see what's lacking, what's missing, and you start making these tweaks, and that's how you improve things. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to play through what I made, and then we're going to start from scratch. So one of the first things I'm actually going to do is just slather it in reverb. This helps me when I'm creating a melody because it adds those long tails, almost adds a sort of pad to the background layer, almost creating a harmony too with the bass and the high notes. So that's one thing I do just to help me sort of audio visualize what I'm doing. So I'm starting with a simple offbeat melody. This can actually be a pretty good starting point because I'm not thinking about the rhythm or the timing of anything. I'm just thinking about which notes follow what and how to create that melody. And sometimes I'll actually change this up quite drastically and add a lot of rhythmic arpeggios and so on. But over time I've realized that sometimes keeping a very simple basic structure intact but making a few tweaks can actually create some really enjoyable music as well. I'm just not one of those people where complexity equals good. That's just not the way I am. A lot of the music I enjoy is simple, so I like to try to remember that. So first things first, I'm going to create that square, and then I'm going to start working on just a bit of filter modulation. I want to emphasize the transient, create something more solid in the attack. So I'm just using the jitter effect here, and this is kind of what sparked the idea, and it's one of the sounds that I really enjoy. Over the years, you hear it a lot in trance music, so a little bit of noise modulation, just a very small amount, modulating the pitch of an oscillator. In particular with the square wave, it creates a really nice raspy sound. Now, if you're like me and you can hear something in your head and you have a general working knowledge of the very basic rudimentary stuff in music theory, you can kind of get from point A to point B, but there's going to be a lot of in-between tweaking. And for me, sometimes it's very, very quick and easy, and sometimes, depending on what it is, I can get a little bit lost. I need to just sit there by trial and error until I figure out where I'm going with it. So here I really like the added flexibility, the tonal modulation I can get with phase modulation. But the notes are inconsistent, and that's because we're on free running oscillators. So I'm going to set it to reset oscillator. What this is going to do is every time I hit a new note, or every time a new note's triggered, the phase of the oscillators, and that's all of them, including the phase modulation oscillator, is getting reset to a specific point. So you get a consistent repetition of all the modulation and everything at the same time. Another thing you can do is if you are making a sound and you don't have that option to do phase oscillation reset and only some of the notes sound good and some of them sound off, is you can actually just sample the good notes, and that's what some people do. It's especially true with bass sounds. So you can sample the perfect note and just use that, and sample the next one and use that. So I really love what this phase modulation is doing with these different intervals, but I don't necessarily want to hear that other interval. I just want to use it to create that roughness. So I'm going to dial in a very small amount. Now this filter here, when you dial up the resonance, creates a really cool pulse width modulation sound in and of itself. So I added that to it, and I'm modulating it with the LFO. And you can either do it with a free running LFO or a phase reset LFO. Here is exploring the other jitter modes. So this one creates basically a constant wobble through the pitch. Now J3, this one I found out clearly only works on every new note. So it's sort of like a sample and hold or a random value for each note. So you have to set your oscillators back to free running to even hear it. So from here I thought I'd explore a pad sound in Massive X, just the basics for now, and I started working on the pad chords. And here's where I made the last change to the melody that really got it exactly where I was going for. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. Any feedback, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.